Here.
Okay, you can go live if you want to. I'm still gonna hit the button.
Well, if you're out there watching this, I'm Tom Vassell, and this blank space next to me is it. Oh, he's back. Oh, I'm supposed to point. Why am I pointing the opposite way?
What? Oh, if you're talking about Ecamm, Ecamm displays your image the way others see it.
Oh,
It's like reversed. It's weird. It's different.
wait. Does it mean it puts text backwards? No,
No, no.
my mind is confused. Well, anyhow, so if you're watching this, folks, we are recording our podcast. We're about to start and get this going, and that's what we're doing here. So if you're coming in through YouTube, howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy.
Alrighty, and I am now recording on the audio side of things.
Sweet.
How sweet it is. All right, here we go.
I have something to edit. The Dice Tower, episode 633.
J is for jamming.
Yeah, man.
I have to say, I'm very pleased with this. Parker!
I think it fits. I think it's very appropriate. Plus, it's a bunch of J's.
And I don't know that this is like a spoiler at this point in time, but the whole end of Spider-Man Far From Home
Ooh, yeah.
with J. Jonah Jameson, and that's spoiler or not, whatever, just suck it up. That was perfect. That was just I was very pleased by that. He's one of my favorite characters in the whole universe of comics.
Which made it very disappointing when, for a while, we thought we weren't going to get to see a continuation of that storyline at all.
Do not care. I never believed that for a second because there's money involved.
Yes. Be like walking away from piles of cash.
So, folks, welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vassell.
Hi there. I'm Eric Summerer.
And we're here to talk about board games. But first, Disney Plus. Well, Eric just got back from a trip to Disney.
Yeah, I had the full 360 experience. We did all 4 parks as well as 2 days at Universal.
So you went to the new Star Wars land, right?
Yes, Galaxy's Edge.
From what I can tell, the lines for that aren't nearly as long. It's not nearly as popular as they had anticipated.
It is not as bad. It is an impressive themed land with some great salads. I had a wonderful salad at one of the restaurants.
I don't know why we talk sometimes. Are you kidding me?
Galaxy's Edge. Actually, the Millennium Falcon ride is wonderful. You sort of get escorted into the lounge area of the Falcon, with the bench seats and the holographic chess set. And you only get to sit there for like a minute and a half, but still, you're there. And then they escort you into your particular cabin for flying the darn thing, and the hallways feel like they're really on the ship. The replica that is outside the ride itself is amazing. All of the theming and the characters and the aliens that are inhabiting everything, really solid. And yes, you're right, Tom. The waits were not nearly as bad as I feared. I think we only waited about 45 minutes for the Millennium Falcon
also,
ride.
you are going now, which is November, and unless it's the week of Thanksgiving, it is one of the best times to go.
Although I learned, we were expecting like dead sort of November, but apparently the entire state of New Jersey had last week off of school, and it's known as Jersey Week in Orlando, and we didn't know that this existed.
Of all weeks.
until we had already booked the trip, and then found out, oh wait, this is a thing, but it wasn't terrible. Other than the brand new stuff like the new Hagrid ride at Universal and the new rides like the Avatar ride is still really, really crazy as far as waiting. It was mostly reasonable moving around the parks.
Alrighty, well I say all that because we were talking about Disney Plus because The Mandalorian came out. I've only seen one episode, but it was good. And also, now my kids can watch all the Disney stuff from my youth.
Yes. I've heard a lot of people going back in time to watch stuff like The Rocketeer, Gummy Bears.
I went farther back than that. Today I was watching part of the Apple Dumpling Gang.
That too, yeah.
And also musicals. So if I break into song and talk about seizing the day, it is not my fault. It is Christian Bale's.
Went back to watch Newsies.
What do you want me to do? It was on. Anyway, no, we're getting off topic here.
You've made fun of me for enjoying Newsies before.
Have I? Yes,
Yeah.
I have. Yeah. Actually, well, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it matters.
All right. Also,
It matters.
Did you know we were on South Park while you were gone?
I knew that that Board Game Breakfast was parodied, and then apparently this week you were name dropped. Is that right?
A lot of people were name dropped in South Park. Yes, they did a whole episode on board game clubs. Basically, there was a board game club. They wouldn't let the girls come into the game clubs, and then the girls showed up. So the girls started their own board game club, which was way better.
Mm-hmm.
One of the quotes I really liked, he's like, "Wait, the girls are winning because they're using math." So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not condoning everything that is said and done on South Park, even a little bit, but that part was very funny. It was very nice of them to name drop the Dice Tower and me and like a gazillion games.
That's really cool. I have to go back and see the episode. I haven't yet.
All right, well, we're going to get started here, folks. This is not about Disney, and we're not owned by Disney, and there is Disney-esque games that are out there that are coming in. I just got a Kingdom Hearts Talisman and a Simpson Codes Names, which I was like waiting for Mike Parkinson to kick my door down and show up, to play it. But,
it's his fondest dream. It's finally here.
But if you are wondering what's going on, I'm Tom Vasson. We're here to talk all about board games, and we're going to get started with Eric talking about something. A game called Yukon Airways, which is a it's sort of a pick up and deliver game, but it's sort of a one directional thing. You are an airline pilot in the Yukon, and you are picking up passengers. So there's sort of two phases to every round of this game. You will draft passengers, which are represented by dice. So there's a bunch of colored dice that get rolled and placed on these docks, and you will choose one of the docks, and you can even pay to adjust one or more of the dice to the dock that you're dealing with, and then you get to take a bunch of passengers of one particular color and load them onto your plane. The more you load onto your plane, the less extra fuel you're going to get because, they take up space on the plane. And then once everyone has done this, they also get to trigger a special power when they load these passengers. Then you go on a flight from the base camp to these various destinations, and there are colored cubes that are spread out on this map, and you're trying to match the color of the dice to the color of the cube. You still get something. You get paid if you just drop somebody off somewhere, but if you match the cubes, that's better, and you get bonuses. But it costs money the farther you go out, and of course you're also trying to drop off those cubes, make those cube matches before your opponents do. So if I have a blue die and you, Tom, have a blue die, who gets to that particular easy to get to location first? I like to break in here with a quick question. You can't see this, but I'm looking here at a picture of the board, and I'm seeing destinations. I see Old Crow and Fort Norman. Great. And then I see Taco Bar.
Yes.
And Cinnamon Strip.
Yep.
I'm confused.
I believe these are actual locations. The designer was inspired. I think his father or grandfather was a pilot in the Yukon, and this was his childhood, dealing with this geography and this world in flying around this geographical region. So these are real places in the Yukon.
Okay, it's not that I doubted you. It's that just seemed odd.
It is. They're a little weird. It's weird to say you're heading to Taco Bar.
No, that's not weird. That's actually something I say often. But
yes. So you also have a dashboard, which represents the ability of your plane. You get a couple of bonus actions, sort of some asymmetrical setup. But you can spend actions, money, to increase your ability to do stuff, to have more cards in your hand, to be able to pick up passengers of multiple colors or from different docks, or to be able to deliver more than one at a time. And you have this. A lot of it's represented by these cool dials, which you clock up and down, which represent your ability to do stuff. It is a very puzzly game. as you try and figure out how to use the fuel you have to get where you're going efficiently and to drop off everybody in a somewhat beneficial manner. The options are rather dazzling at the very beginning of this game because there's a lot of persistence to this as far as the board gets set up and then not a whole lot gets reset. Like the cubes all go out on the map. You will not get new cubes onto the board. Everything is out there. So at the beginning, you have this dazzling amount of options, but those are going to dwindle as the game goes on, which is also kind of cool in the puzzle. As you get stronger and your plane gets better at doing stuff, you get more abilities. I really enjoyed this one. I didn't get to totally finish the demo. This was performed, or I did this at Essen. Because there was a huge line of people wanting to play the game. But I did win the demo scenario. And I think it's well laid out. I think it's a solid, fun game. It's from Ludonova is the publisher here, and the designer is Al Leduc. Yukon Airways, very enjoyable.
This is actually not his first game. I've just recently played a game of his. That's why the name kind of stuck in my head. And I don't remember the name of the game, but I am searching it while we're talking, and I'm going to drag this out until I find that. This one, though, really pretty board. So I have not seen this one yet. It could be in one of my Essen boxes. We are currently going through the ballad of the Essen stuff. 13 boxes were shipped from Essen. 6 have arrived.
Okay.
The one that came yesterday was not in a box we packed it. 2 of the other boxes came, and it looked like 16 people punched them really hard on the way in. Wow. But so far, only 1 game has been damaged, so not too bad.
Interesting.
Anyway, Aladuck has another game that he designed and was published, and it came out this year, actually, is Cupcake Empire. I really like that one.
That's the one. Yep.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about Marco Polo 2, which is kind of like Marco Polo 1. In Marco Polo 2, you're not Marco Polo, that's for sure. I'm not even sure why his name's on the game, except it's like the first one. But if you never played the first one, don't worry. In the second one, you are rolling dice each turn, then using those dice and placing them on the board to gather resources. You use these resources to fulfill contracts, and you also will pay resources and money to move around the board, your figure around the board, going from city to city to establish trading posts. And you get points for both establishing trading posts and for completing contracts. It is a extremely fun game, but you have to realize that I really like the first one. I don't know if Eric's played the first one.
I have, yeah.
All right, so tell me your thoughts on the first one.
I enjoyed it. Another very puzzly game. I like the special abilities that you get at the very beginning, which everyone seems very overpowered, like game breaking, but they're all like that. So it's kind of fun to use these superpowers to do cool stuff.
Right. So in this new one, for example, one of the powers that the players can have is every time you roll a dice, including the 5 dice you roll at the beginning of your turn, each number will give you some sort of resource. You roll these 5 dice, you get a resource. You pay something to re-roll a die, whatever you roll gives you a resource. You're getting all kinds of stuff. That's definitely overpowered. Mm-hmm. But then there's someone else who, when they move, they don't have to pay the costs for moving. That's also overpowered.
Yeah.
When you played the first one, was there anything you didn't like about it?
Nothing stands out, but it's been a little while since I've played it.
Okay, well, I really like the first one a ton. But if there's one thing that I struggled with, the first one, it's very expensive to travel. I mean, yes, when you're experienced, you can figure out ways to be effective and get around the board. It is much easier to travel in the new one, I think. And so there's, I think, a better balance between contracts and traveling. There's also a wild resource called Jade in this one. And then there's a few other differences between the spaces. However, that being said, even though I would give this a 9 out of 10, I like it that much. I don't know that I could call this Marco Polo 2. I would call it Marco Polo 1.5. And I don't know that you would need to own both. At this point in time, if I was going to only own one, I would own the second one because of that slightly easier mode of traveling.
Hmm.
They don't really combine, although you can use some of the special powers from one and the other. But are you really going to go buy a game just to get a few extra special powers?
Right.
So I don't know about that. But lots of fun. Marco Polo 2, very enjoyable.
So it's more of a revision.
It almost feels like an expansion map, like a Ticket to Ride map.
Okay. But just a standalone expansion.
Sure, but there's new rules. Don't get me wrong. It's different. But if you know how to play Marco Polo, I could explain this one to you pretty quickly.
Okay. Next for me is a game I actually played with Tom. This is a drafting game called Mint Condition. The publisher is Dachshund Games. This is a drafting game, as I said, that is about protecting your board game collection. Almost all of the cards in this game are some sort of malady that can occur with your games. There's a Cheeto Fingers card. There's pet damage. There's a couple of good cards like Being Careful. There's a card that says, "You are careful. Be careful." And you will be given an array of these. I think it's 5 or 6 cards. And
it depends on the number of players.
Okay. And you will then choose one, which simultaneously everybody flips up what they chose. And so you can see what your opponents are building toward or against. And then you pass the remaining hand around the table. Many of the cards will only trigger negative points if a certain number of them end up in front of you. There are some that if you have fewer than 3 cards of this type in front of you, it doesn't hurt you at all. But as soon as you get that third card, that's not good. There are others that if you have the most, you get a bonus. But if you don't have any, then you're in trouble. And so each of the cards operates a little bit differently with a different set of rules. And you, once all the cards have been drafted for a round, you will then total up how bad your score is. And then you play a certain number of rounds to complete the game. This is, well, the theme is entertaining.
It is.
I don't think it does anything terribly special in the drafting genre. It was okay as a passing interest, but I certainly wasn't enamored with it, and it didn't seem to stand out as having anything unique that made this a must-have game. I have to really go for this. If you like the theme, let's protect my game collection. Yeah, it's worth a look, but I don't think, compared to something like Sushi Go or Seven Wonders, it just doesn't quite stand out in the same way. That's Mint Condition. What do you think, Tom?
I like it, right? It's not that I didn't like the game. It's fine. It just feels a little clunky. There's clearly some cards that are better to draft than others. I wish it pushed you to make some harder choices.
That's true. There are some, like that Be Careful card. If you were lucky enough to get those,
you take it.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer move.
And then the theme is also not totally accessible. Most people aren't sitting around talking about being obsessive about their games. And so you could use this, I guess, with any collection of anything, right? You touch Dad vinyls and he's like, "What? Get your filthy fingers off of them."
Yeah.
But I like it. I like to see maybe this done more. And Eric, I did try the variant where you try to get the most points. That plays better.
Oh, interesting. So
you're like a masochist. You're like, ruin my collection.
But I guess that would mean that some of the cards that only trigger at certain numbers, or if you get fewer cards, that's how you get negative points. That, I guess, that would make it a little different and interesting to try and hit those targets.
Yes. All right, I want to talk about a game called It's a Wonderful World. Do it.
It's a wonderful world.
All right. Thank you. All right. So that has nothing to do with this. This is like a futuristic world, and it's like not dystopian. It's actually kind of a cool world with buildings and things like that. And forget about the theme. So the way It's a Wonderful World works, it's a big stack of cards, and each round of the game you're drafting, very similar to the game we just talked about. And so you'll go through and draft these cards, pick one from a hand, pass it to the next person until you've played a bunch of cards in front of you. Then some of those cards you'll convert into resources. Some will change into a cube of a specific color. There's like, I think, 5 different color cubes. And you can just change them into resources and put those resources directly on other buildings. I didn't realize you've played this.
Yes. Well, this is the one I talked about on the live show at Spiel.
That's right. Okay. I had not yet played it at that point, so I did listen to you. No, did I? I don't remember now. I was there, right?
You were there. We sat next to each other.
Okay. Anywho, so I guess I won't talk too much more about it since you already heard Eric explain it. But in case you missed it, you then build these buildings. But what makes the game really intriguing is that after everyone's done building their buildings, the buildings produce resources, but one at a time. So buildings will produce gray resources first, and if I can then immediately use those gray resources to build another building before the black resources get produced, I can then produce those black resources and then maybe build another building. Now, you won't cascade that much over the course of the game, but it will happen, and it's a really neat concept. And you really, when you're drafting, you have to decide which buildings you're going to trash to keep the resources and which ones you will try to build, because you can't build them all. Really fun game. I mean, I really like this one. It feels like a Race for the Galaxy style game. If I have to make any criticism against it, I think I might have split the deck into an A and B deck. Because maybe, especially for people's first playthrough, because at the beginning you get these buildings that are worth a lot of points. You're like, I can't build these. And you chuck them. And then later on you're like, I got a ton of resources. I wish I had kept some of those big point buildings from the beginning because I can build them now.
Yes and no, but I found that when I had those, big buildings, keeping one or two of those in the beginning gave me direction. And knowing that I was going to be working on those for the next several turns gave me some focus that I really appreciated.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I'm just saying for new players, it's a little, at the beginning, you're just trying to build something. You're like, I can build this building. I'll chuck these buildings. I'm sure more big point buildings will come. Maybe.
Yeah.
Now, I got the Kickstarter edition of this, and inside that there's campaigns and all sorts of nonsense. Do not worry about any of that. It's okay. It's interesting, but I'm just talking the base game, which will come in a Ticket to Ride size box. It's a lot of fun. Has really cool art, some nice components, and I think the whole thing's really smooth. I mean, this is the kind of game that once you know how to play it, you can probably knock it out in 30 minutes, but you feel like you played a pretty involved game.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this was one of my most anticipated games of the con, and I'm pretty happy with how well it turned out.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well, as I said a few episodes ago. But, I mean, comparing this to Mint Condition, this has far more going for it. Of course, it's a much bigger game.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to put them back to back to compare them like that. I'm just saying.
But Wonderful World has
both are drafts.
A very unique system for its drafting and resource production, and it feels like it is a unique game. Whereas Mint Condition, I feel like I've played before.
Sure, but Mint Condition has like games like Sushi Go.
Right.
I mean, it's supposed to be along those lines. This one, I've seen games kind of like it, but the fact that the goods produced in different phases makes a really big difference.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed that the theme didn't come through better, but maybe that happens in the campaign stuff that you have in your copy, Tom.
Maybe. There's some other... No, just like add some extra stuff. It's fine. I'm not saying the campaign's bad. I'm saying if you don't play it, don't feel like you're missing anything.
Okay. Next for me is a new game in the Abyss universe. In fact, it's actually called Conspiracy Abyss Universe. It is from Bruno Catala and Charles Chevalier, and the publisher is Bombix. It uses not this, I don't think it's the same artist, but it is very similar art in style to the Abyss board game. This is a card game where you are eventually drafting a reverse pyramid So you will create a row, a top row of 5 cards, and then a row below it of 4, and then 3, 2, then 1. And when one player completes their pyramid, this is a 2-player game. Actually, you can play with more players. We played it as a 2-player game. When one player completes their pyramid, everybody else gets one more turn, and that ends the game. So it moves pretty fast. The way the drafting works, it's a little bit of a push or luck, similar to the Abyss board game, where you will decide to draw 1, 2, or 3 cards from the deck, and then you'll choose one of them. So if you only draw 1, that's the card you're going to put in the slot. And you are building in sequence. So you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the top, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 2, and then 1. So depending on what you are placing next, it can be very beneficial to grab more cards. However, whatever you don't grab is going to go in a discard pile. And they get clustered by suits. So all the different cards have color suits. I think there's 5. Yeah, 5 different color suits.
I have a red suit.
You have a red suit. That's good. You've got these suits. And as an alternative to drawing from the top of the deck, on your turn, you may choose to take all of one color and just take that and put it in your pyramid. So when you draw 3 cards, you are giving your opponent at least 2 to choose from, and possibly allowing them to draw a big old cluster of like colors. You are trying to cluster colors together to try and create large groupings of the same color. That's going to earn you points at the end. You're also going for majorities and high numbers in certain suits, like the highest number of purple is going to be how many purple points you get. There are also keys, if you manage to get them, that if you get a matching pair of keys built in sequence, you will then get some sort of bonus. Lots of cool, again, another drafting game that has unique things going for it that makes it stand out. But really one that you have to watch your opponents and see what they are trying to do and try not to give them too many opportunities to get large clusters of cards. But sometimes, like when you turn the corner, like when you are building into the 4th or the next row down and trying to, say, get a yellow card to match the cluster that you have been building, you want to draw more cards. And that ebb and flow is interesting. Whereas other turns, you might be like, you know what? Anything could go here. I'm just going to top deck, or I'm going to draw the 2 blue cards that are in the discard pile, and that will work for me and not give my opponent more stuff. I really enjoyed this one. I don't know if this one is quite available yet. This was a copy that Z Garcia had that they sort of cobbled together at Essen, but I think it's very close if it's not yet available. And yeah, I enjoyed this one. Conspiracy, not to be confused with the Restoration Games title. Conspiracy Abyss Universe.
Yes,
from
but
Bombas.
I want to know, would you play this or would you play Abyss?
I think I like the speed of this. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of Abyss. I know, I liked it, but I wasn't like, whoa, this game is amazing and I want to play it all the time. This one I could see hitting the table more often for me.
You know, there's like a slight difference between this, whoa, this is amazing, I want to play this game all the time, and meh. There's some variations in there, nuances.
Yes.
Would you want to play this one all the time?
I would want to play this. I think that this would certainly hit the table more often. And maybe while it's not like I want to play it all the time, I think I would be in the mood to play this more often than I would be the big board game.
All right. All right, the next one I want to talk about is Sarah's Vision.
This was high on my list to check out. I'm curious what you thought of this.
All right, well, Sarah's Vision is set in a very utopian future, except some jerks are trying to blow everything up and you're trying to stop them. It is a cooperative game in which there are a few people in the city and you need to kind of protect these people by moving them out of danger zones. And that's basically it, and stop danger from showing up over the course of the city. How do you do this, you might wonder? Is it by
How do you do this?
Is it by card drafting, dice placement, worker placement? No, it's through a mechanism that you probably played in your life called Jenga. That's because this game comes with a Jenga-esque tower of plastic blocks. And on your turn, if I want to do some sort of action, maybe get rid of an event card that's kind of going to be a pain and add more danger to the city, I might need to get rid of, spend 2 orange resources. That means I pull 2 blocks with orange stickers on them off this tower and put them on the top without the tower falling over. Tower falling over is awful. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily make you lose the game. At the beginning of the game, it will hurt you a lot, but it won't make you lose. Near the end, it will probably make you lose because then you just do the next 5 events, which add danger all over the city. It's interesting. You're trying to free by spending some good resources. You can get some extra blocks added to the tower. There's some working together, how these events come up in order, and you're like, okay, let's stop them. I shouldn't say it's a pretty interesting story. It's an okay story about what's happening to you. I like it a lot, but I feel like it's not a game I want to repeat play a lot. It was very unique and interesting, like, ooh, we're doing Jenga and a cooperative game. And the second time, it's unique and it's a Jenga game. I'm just not seeing it. It's cool quality, great quality stuff. I like how it looks. I think it's really neat. An insurance company made this. So, yes. I mean, there's a lot of cool things behind this. It's just that at the end of the day, I don't know that it's going to offer tremendously gripping gameplay unless you really love Jenga and wish that there was a game attached to it that was cooperative.
Okay. All right. I do think the story behind this game is pretty interesting, that it was produced by an insurance company as a team-building exercise, and that they printed enough to distribute to their thousands of employees for team-building events, which is pretty cool. And then they just decided to make a few more and sell them.
Well, that's the thing, though. This is not the first time that this has happened. I mean, okay.
Is it?
All right, well, technically, it's the first time that this has happened for this particular company. But Jamaica, the company that makes Jamaica, that's they are. Cut out this. GameWorks. And GameWorks came around at the very beginning because they made a game, I think it's called Animalia, for the people in their company. It was an animal company or a vet company. I forget what it was, some sort of company. So they made this game, distributed among it. It was pretty well received. They were like, let's make another game. They made Jamaica. Then Jamaica got extremely popular. And now they have made several games, including 1 or 2 that may be mentioned later today.
Okay.
So I like when stuff like that happens. It makes me happy. I don't know what it is. It's like, oh, you're an accidental board game company. That's cool. Whew. Well, those are the games we played, folks. That was Sarah's vision, what you just talked about. Now we're going to jump into some questions.
Saving.
Hello, video audience. How are you doing? Is anyone out there? I haven't seen any comments for a while. I'll answer a quick question to the small number of you watching this time of night instead of watching Disney Plus. We're going to use it as an excuse that no one's watching stuff.
Yeah.
Anybody got a question for me or Eric? But Eric's not there because he's saving.
Here.
Oh, he's there. You can hear him. Some people did ask about the podcast. Yes, the podcast was delayed. So it's kind of weird that you might hear this one before the podcast before it. But that other podcast, I think, is going to be posted tomorrow. Manny and Suzanne had some scheduling snafus. But this one will go up next Tuesday. Well, Eric, no one's watching because I got no questions. Oh, wait. Love that tie. Not a question, but thank you. I agree. What are you excited to watch on Disney Plus? Well, I'm really excited about all the Avengers stuff, and I just was reading online that it's not coming till late 2020, so I'm less excited now because I don't want to wait.
Well, I saw that. Oh, you mean all the new Avengers stuff?
Oh, sure. Like right before we recorded this, I watched the end scene in Avengers Endgame again because I just like watching it. I've only watched it 40-some times now.
Wow.
I love that scene!
Yeah, all right. Good.
All right. Let me see. I'm going to make sure I start recording before anything else.
Good idea.
All right, Eric. I think I'll go first, and then we'll jump from there.
Sure.
And my favorite, for those watching, my favorite Thanksgiving side dish is roasted Brussels sprouts. All right, here we go. Dan says you guys have just been cursed.
What?
I'm sorry, Eric. It's true. And we're going to be shrunk down and placed into a board game in which you have to take the place of the meeple's characters, pawns, etc. Which game do you choose? The only way to get out of the board game, assuming you want to, is to win the game. The catch is that you are physically playing the game piece and someone else is making all the game choices for you. Who would you choose to control your character? Will you choose a game with a theme you like in case you're trapped forever? Or do you pick a game you know the person controlling you can win?
Well, I would want to pick a game that has like actual geography on the board, like Fireball Island or Torres. I could live inside those pieces and I'd at least have shelter.
Did you say Fireball Island?
I don't know. I could hide in the cave, except someone else is controlling me. But no one dies on Fireball Island. So I just get knocked over every once in a while. It sounds fun.
I would want to die. Giant spiders, jumping tigers, fireballs coming at you. Like, please kill me.
That's true.
Okay, well, I can answer the question of who I want controlling me would be my wife, because she is the one person that I would give complete trust to, that she wouldn't go, this is boring.
I mean, does the person know that they are controlling a human being, or
okay.
Are they just...
So let me rephrase that. If they know it's me, I want it to be my wife.
Yeah.
If they don't know it's me, then it's Jason Levine.
Yeah, there you go.
So the game, if I'm trapped in it forever, Candyland.
Just so you can eat?
You know what, though? You won't want to be there forever. At first, it'd be fun. You'd be like, candy. The second day, you're like, I need some steak.
Well, there you go. I guess I'd want to be food chain magnet, because at least then I get burgers and pizza and beer.
But there's no playing piece in Food Chain Magnet, is there?
Well, I'd be one of the people that lives in the house and
That's
is
not
being
a piece.
advertised
Not a piece.
to.
Not a piece. You're breaking the rules.
So now I'm a hamburger?
Well, do you want to be a hamburger? That seems like a really bad idea.
I don't think I want to be a hamburger. Never mind.
Yeah, you can't be a game where there's a conglomerate empire, because you have to be one of the pieces.
Well, maybe I can be one of the houses.
Do you want to be a house?
I don't want to be a house, but I want to be a person in the house.
That's not a piece in the game. You got to pick a game that has a piece that you can be.
Can I be a radio tower?
Yes, if you want to be. Is that what you want?
Well, I guess. I mean, no one hurts the radio tower.
Have you ever seen lightning?
Oh. Yeah, but there's no lightning in the game. I mean...
This is a very
confusing rules.
Conversation we're having here. There's a lot of games that are just right out. Like, no game involving horror, Arkham Horror, zombies. Yeah, those are all out. I don't care who's controlling me. Not playing any of those. A lot of action-adventure games I wouldn't want to be involved. I don't want to be in a fantasy land because they don't have modern bathrooms.
Yeah, all the escape room games I would not want to do.
No, they have to be a pleasant land. How about the It's a Wonderful World? But there's no playing piece in that one.
Yeah.
Caught by my own rules. Monopoly, but I'd be paying rent all the time.
Yeah. But at least you'd get to be like driving a cool car.
This sounds like an amazing thread in our forums, folks. Start it up and you give us good answers.
Nice story thread. Adil has a couple of questions for us. He says, last year I finished a campaign of Gloomhaven with my game group. Although I enjoyed the game at first, the way these long campaigns are set up, I feel compelled to drop everything and finish the game before going back to play any other games. Given most dungeon crawls have a grinding nature to them, this resulted in me having almost no interest in the game by the time the campaign was complete. This year I have been plowing through a new campaign game, Kingdom Death Monster. So far, it has been a great ride, but I don't want to end up making the same mistake. Have you experienced campaign fatigue? Do you normally take breaks in between a campaign to play other stuff? I worry that I will perma-shelf the game if we go a few weeks without picking it back up.
Yeah, I have to say that I experience campaign fatigue. Every campaign game, doesn't matter how much I love the game. Because I like a variety in my games, and after playing a game multiple times, I'm like, all right, I love this game, but let's play something else. I feel that way with lots of things in life, you know. So I do take breaks between the campaign to play other stuff. And yes, sometimes that does perma-shelf the game. And I found that if that's the case, I usually don't stay awake at night worrying about it too much. And that means that I will probably not buy too many campaign games because of that reason.
Yes. There's only so many campaigns you can have room for. And I mean, we've discussed this before, and I fear that I've perma-shelved Pandemic Legacy 2. Partially because my wife doesn't remember all the special rules. Like, so many changes have been made to the original rules, she doesn't know the game anymore.
Do you remember the game?
I would have to read through the entire rulebook again to remind myself of what's still going on.
Yeah. That's a tough one, right?
Because it's been a while. And I want to complete it. I really do. I really enjoy the game, but I'm not playing it solo. So we have to find a time that we can refresh the rules and try and get back into the swing of things.
And this is really bugging me because so many games now, even Euro games, are adding this campaign thing to them, and that sounds good in theory. You're like, oh, yay, the new Orleans game, there's a campaign in it. But there's a lot of problems with campaigns. You got to get the same people if you want to do it best. You got to commit. They'll come in and you'll be like, hey, remember today we're playing, game 3 of Orleans, and they'll say, oh, but look, this new game showed up and I want to try it out. Tough.
Yeah.
You can play that in 7 weeks when we're done with this campaign. And it's a little frustrating, I think. And stop doing this to me, publishers. A couple campaign games are great, because there's people who want to do those. I feel like we've gone too far in the other direction.
It's tough because every publisher wants to have their campaign game. And I don't know if there's enough room in the marketplace for everyone to have a campaign game.
I guess. All right,
I do like the ones that are the new Expedition to New Dale game is more of a series of scenarios than any plot-based.
Yeah, but even that, can you jump in and play scenario 5?
I think you'd have trouble just because it adds mechanisms and stuff.
Then that's a campaign game. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's if I want to. I haven't started that one yet. I was just looking at it the other day, and I was like, oh. It's a campaign, and it kind of... How many... Have you played it?
I've played the first.
Do you think you'll finish it? Okay, what's this? Would you put any amount of money on the fact that you'll finish it? Like even $1?
I might put $1 down. Because then I'd be committed to doing it. But I don't know. I know that I will play several more, but I don't know if I'm getting through all whatever it is, 8. In any sort of reasonable amount of time. That's true.
I don't know. Those games, I'll tell you what, if it's a campaign game, it gets pushed aside. Even It's a Wonderful World had a campaign part to it, and I was like, oh. And then I played it, and I said, oh, you don't need to play the campaign part of this. Great. And most people won't even notice it because it's not part of the non-Kickstarter version.
So Adil's other question, on a more personal note, I live in Ethiopia and got into board gaming a few years ago. I was very lucky with my gaming group at first, since the 4 of us developed as gamers together over a few years, from basic card games to heavy Euro games. This year, one of them moved abroad, and another one will be leaving by the end of the year, so I might have to find new players ASAP. However, that will be a tall order to fill, since there are no friendly local gaming stores or gaming cafes in the country. I have attempted to get other friends into gaming, but normally they tap out for anything more complicated than Splendor. Did either of you experience something like this before the Dice Tower? I'm guessing you had an easier time in the Korean gaming scene.
I'm not really a good answer to that because even when I was in Korea, I had the podcast going at that point, and I could just say on the podcast, anyone live in Korea? And there's a chance that someone lived in Korea, right? If I was not Tom Vassell, and I don't mean that in a braggadocious way, but just people know who I am, right? But if I wasn't that and I moved to a new place and I didn't know anyone there, I would immediately go, okay, let's start hitting up the usual suspects. Meetup. I'll make my own meetup group if there isn't one. Facebook. I'll look on Facebook. Board Game Geek. If all those didn't work, what local boards teachers might be interested in something like this? College professors. I would just. Is there a supermarket thing I can? I guess that's a thing of the past, but where you post the thing up at the supermarket. But I would definitely like to post about. I would just keep searching. It doesn't have to be my friends per se. I look if I want to play games like gamer games, then I would just say I want to play these games, and look for people to play them with me. Look for gamers who then could become my friend.
I wonder if there's like a university scene anywhere near you. If you could find a cafe near a school that you might find some students that want to jump in. Maybe find a cafe or coffee shop where you can play a few games and just, find one friend at first and see if you can draw some more people in that enjoy seeing what it is you're doing.
All right, Sean says, in the past, I've heard you complain about day one erratas on rule books. I wanted to know if you would be offended. Probably not
personally,
the
best.
Yes. or wouldn't like it if a rule book was digital only, as such could be updated with an errata without you knowing.
Well, this has certainly happened on a couple of games, right, Tom?
Well, it's been years now, at least 5 or 6 years, but I do remember you and I both got a game that the rules were not included. It was some card game. Remember that? And the rules were only online, and I was pretty steamed about the whole thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to go online to get these rules? Now, I might be more inclined to not have a problem with that now because I got an iPad. Mm-hmm. But that's what's called a living rule book in essence, right? It's easy to keep up online. I would just say do both. But okay, so you're saying you could change the rules with errata without people noticing? First of all, have you seen the internet? Not going to happen. People are going to notice.
Yeah,
and you're going to cause the biggest arguments because someone's going to go, I know it said that. They're like, look, right here it says that. They're like, I could have sworn.
I could have sworn yesterday it said something different.
You're getting old, man.
Can you imagine all the people that make like player aids and stuff for games? They would go crazy because they would spend all this time laying out their player aid and you'd print it out and then the rules would change. And it would be like, but the player aid that I spent all this time on now is wrong.
I don't mind that there's like a living rule book per se, but I would definitely at the end say, here are things we changed.
Yeah.
Someone here mentioned that in our comments of if for those of you listening, we record these live online. And they said the full Keyforge rulebook is only available online. The starter box just has a quick start guide, but they actually changed it up. They actually made a better rulebook in future starter ones. And I had a problem with that because I don't want to have to go online to get the full rulebook. Now, I'm not offended by it. I'll live with it, but I kind of like everything to be in the box.
I don't like having the extra hurdle. Say you open the box to play and you don't have an internet connection at that particular moment. And I find the same frustration when, for whatever reason, the game requires a pencil to keep score and it doesn't include a pencil in the box. Like, what? Come on. Or, this game needs some other thing that is not in the box. I want to play the game now, and you can't assume that I have to get all this other stuff. Anyway.
And I know people agree with you, because there was a company called Cheap Ass Games, which came out back in the 2000s, early 2000s, and their thing was, hey, You're probably sick of buying the same components in game after game. So we're going to give you the game, but we're not going to give you the components. You need dice, get your own. You need markers, get your own. And then the games will be cheap, thus the name of the company. Mm-hmm. And they did okay, right? But I don't see people playing those games today. And even I'd be like, oh, yeah, that's right. I got to go find markers for this game.
I think, like, knowing that you're playing that style of game, you bought it that way, you know that's what you are holding, and you come armed with dice or tokens or whatever. It's when it's a surprise that it really drives me nuts. I bring this game somewhere, let's open it up, and we're playing it at a cafe or at a bar, and it says, oh, wait, we need 4 pencils. We're at a bar. I don't have that with me. We can't play this game right now.
Well, what about dry erase marker games that don't include a way to erase the thing?
Ugh.
Like, someone go to the bathroom, grab a
yeah,
pile of
let's
paper
go
towels.
Get some paper towels. I guess, this is a minor complaint, really, but it is an annoyance when the things are not problems. In the box. I know. Anyway. Kirk, in the early 80s, had a few lightweight Avalon Hill war games, but wasn't a serious gamer at all. About 8 years ago, he says, I discovered Euro games and have purchased and played many over the years, and it has become my main hobby. One of the games is Memoir 44, which became one of my favorites. The war theme reminded me of my old war games, so I started researching games that crossed the divide between Euro and war games, as Memoir does so well. Board Game Breakfast's No Enemies Here certainly inspired me as well.
Shut up!
So I decided to purchase GMT's Washington's War, which in the end turned out to be a fantastic area control game with a strong historical theme. What surprised me, however, was the rulebook, which brought me back to the Avalon Hill days of the 80s. It has that highly organized, kind of lawyerly structure to it. See section 8.4.3, then section 11.8.4, etc. He's saying this with pride, which increases the initial learning curve for the first playthrough or two. No big deal, I now get the game. But it made me think that much more aware of how separate these two genres are in some ways, despite being so close in other ways. The whole feel of Euro games compared to war games is so very different. Washington's War is an exception in some ways, very nice mounted board and components, under 2 hours, but it definitely seems to be an exception. In your experience in gaming, have you noticed more of a merger of these two worlds over the years? It seems that the card-driven game is a strong link between the two genres for some of the more popular games. Twilight Struggle, Memoir, Washington's War, Days of Ire, etc. But is that where it ends? Are these two worlds destined to be forever separate with only minor crossovers? Or am I just ignorant of a multitude of games that are Euro war games?
All right, Kirk. Yeah, this is a tough one, right? I used to criticize those rule books all the time. I do not like them, right? This whole 14.1.3, but the people who do like them really like them.
Yeah, well, yeah. It certainly makes sense as a reference material. It makes it easy to find stuff, that's for sure.
Here's the thing. There is a lot of these crossover games. You may not realize them. You mentioned Memoir. The whole Commands and Colors line is certainly this, but there's more. If you look at anything that's done from... Worthington Games tends to do lighter war games. And then Uwe, there's that whole line, 1775 and 1812 and Vikings. And, those are lighter war games. But they have kind of a war game feel. I just got a game from Essen. I haven't played it yet, but by Polo Mori, that's a 20-minute World War II game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if it's any good or not, but I'm certainly interested in giving it a whirl, right? It sounds cool. So I don't think the worlds are destined to be forever separate, but I also don't think that some of these folks who like playing war games, they don't necessarily want their games, for lack of better words, dumbed down. They like them the way they are. Even the ones that are quote-unquote crossovers, these CDGs, the card-driven games, or the coin, the counterinsurgency, these are still big, heavy games. Mm-hmm. Like, I like Twilight Struggle, but I'm not going to get most people to play it because it's still a card-driven game. There's a lot going on in it. But
Yeah.
I would ask this question online. People will give you a lot more better answers to this question of, these accessible war games, I guess.
Sure. I mean, I think there are flags being planted all over the spectrum. There was the new Osprey deck building World War II game, Undaunted, that uses deck building mechanics in a World War II sort of area control scenario. There was the Martin Wallace deck building war game that I'm totally blanking on because it sort of lost favor because there was this Halifax Hammer strategy. A Few Acres of Snow, that's what it was called.
Got it.
So there are certainly Euro-style war games that are taking some of these Euro mechanisms and turning it into a war scenario and trying to bridge that gap. So I don't think it's as far apart as it would seem, as Kirk is seeing. But there are still traditional war games that maybe certain other hosts of this podcast from years gone by would declare this is a war game, that is not, and may still be separate from the Euro style games.
We'll find that out. Speaking of former hosts of our podcast, if you're listening to this a week from today, or a week from today minus one, so 6 days from today, the big 24-hour marathon at Dice Tower is happening. Eric is unfortunately too busy to make it down.
Yeah.
But Joe Stedman, or as everyone calls him now, Joey Stedman, is showing up to play games. He just sent out an email that he's like, we're playing ASL, right? No. No. Alrighty, next question is from Nick. Well, I say next. Oh, no, next question is from Corey.
Mm-hmm.
Corey says he has a 2-year-old son, loving his game collection. He loves looking at all the box art and shaking the smaller boxes to hear different sounds. Yay. It says under close supervision, we can get some games out. He can play with the components under close supervision, obviously. He likes to play with the things from King of Tokyo, Ice Cool, and now the Reckoners. Are there any games your kids are drawn to at his age? Any games you'd open up just to play with them? Might be an Eric question over a Tom question. What? I got more kids than Eric.
I know, that's a weird thing.
Actually, so let me show you this here. And this is only in video, but I'll talk about it so you know what I'm showing Eric. Well, he can't see it either, so it doesn't matter. So there's a game called Squint. Have you played Squint? It's a game that has a bunch of cards with lines and squiggles on them, and then you make a picture out of them. And so this one has clear ones, and so my son sits there, and I let him play with these, and he makes pictures with them. Cool. It's like a component to a game, and that's pretty cool. And when my other kids were younger, I always let them play with Heroescape stuff. They just like the miniatures. Now I would let my son play with Funko Pop, the Funkoverse stuff.
Yeah.
Or Unmatched even. There's all these cool figures that you can play with, and it's like playing with toys. Yeah, it's supervision because you need to get the figures back. But there's so many. I mean, you can let them play with anything. Let them play with Blood Rage minis. Well, those are kind of, some of those are gross.
They're very pointy, too.
Well, it depends how old the child is, too.
Yeah. He's talking about a 2-year-old, so.
Yeah, but Legos are pointy.
Okay.
Anyway, I would let my kids play with many games that had those big toy-type miniatures, really.
Yeah. I had, when my eldest, I think, was about 2, I would enjoy letting him open up a box, or I would open up the box for him so it would open up very carefully. And everything was bagged inside. And so he could remove the bags of colorful components. I'm thinking like Power Grid. And he could remove the bag of the orange houses. Yeah, and here's the bag of the purple houses. Yay! And because he wasn't dexterous enough to open any of the bags, they were generally safe. And so, look at this, and then this, and this bag, and this bag. And then I would pack it all back up and close the lid, and then we'd do it again. So that was sort of fascinating for him. We had also picked up some of the Haba games with big chunky components that he could then play with the animal upon animal crocodiles or the hedgehog. There was a Dr. Eigel, it's called, with this hedgehog with sort of a brush back that felt funny to touch the back of it and stick things into it. Again, with close supervision, but really anything can be fascinating at that age. As long as you know they're not destroying anything, a good solid wooden component can be fascinating.
Yes, and we'll talk about that soon too. So much premonitions.
Ooh. Nick was wondering about our top 10 and top 100 lists and wondering, do you play each of these games at least once a year?
Nope.
Or, jumping to the end there. Or outside of legacy games or escape room games, do you have games on your list that you haven't played in a couple years, but you keep on your list because the mechanics are best demonstrated in this game?
Yes.
Do you have a time frame where you can say, I haven't played this game in X number of years, therefore it has slipped out of my top 100?
Yes. Well, not a time frame. Okay, so yes, there's no way we can play our top 100 games every year. Not with the fact that we're reviewers and playing new games. And frankly, even if I wasn't a reviewer, I would still always want to play new games.
Yeah.
But if I don't play a game for several years and it's quote unquote my top 100, I will sit there and go, should it be?
Yep.
And that is an arbitrary number type thing, right? I have to sit there and go, yeah, I haven't played this for a while. I'm not like really even itching to play it, so it shouldn't be in my top 100. And because of that, when we do our top 100s this coming January, you're going to see some changes, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree in that it is more of that hankering to play something as you look at it and say, well, this was on my list. I haven't played it in a while, and I think I would go to other games first before I went to this one. And therefore, it should at least go down a few notches. Another question from Nick. Have you ever looked at doing a video on games you have replayed this week or month and your new thoughts on the game? Do you think a video like this could help combat the cult of the new and bring older games back into the spotlight and conversation? This would be in addition to your look back video, as that seems to be more of a score update than an actual here is a game I revisited this week or month and this is my new thoughts on it.
Okay, so yes, so if you don't know, on our video channel, I do a look back once a week. I talk about games that I reviewed a year, 5 years, and 10 years ago and what I think about them now. So he's saying another video that of games I played, older games this month, which would be a video I will only do once in a while, actually.
Yeah.
And what I think of them. And then here's the thing. You say, do you think a video like this will help combat the cult of the new and bring older games back into the spotlight and conversation? Emphatically, no. And I'll tell you why. Because I will look at my top. I'll just pull this up right now because this is something I was looking at the other day and I found it to be fascinating. So let's take a look at the most watched videos of the Dice Tower in 2019. Okay, so I'll pull this up on the internet, which is whenever I need it to be really fast, is not. And I'm mostly blaming Eric because I think his Skype call is just, scrunching up the time.
So it's just the fact that I'm here that's bothering you. Well,
yes, there's that, but why is the internet going so slow right now? So anyway, I'm going to look at we're recording this on November 13th, 2019. And so I'm going to look at stats.
14th, it's fine.
Got it. I'm sorry. My stats only go to the 13th.
Yep.
That's why I had that number. I'm going to look at the stats for just the last 365 days, so a year. And we're going to look at what the top videos are. All right, so the top videos, as I pull these up here. Okay, so the first one is top 10 games for the classroom, which for some reason is watched more than other videos are, and it gets like...
It was assigned for homework.
Maybe, because it only gets watched for like a minute on average. I don't know what it is. Then after that, we got, the top 10 games from 2018 and so on. And then top 10 anticipated games of 2019. Top 10 anticipated games at Gen Con 2019. And already the two top 10 anticipated games for Essen are moving up on that list. And that is just mind-boggling to me that we talk about all kinds of stuff, and yet the best, our most viewed stuff is upcoming things.
Yeah.
Nothing we say is going to change that. Eric and I have done a segment on this show, and we will probably do it again in the future about Vault, or what did we call it?
Games from the Vault. Yeah.
Games from the Vault.
And Suzanne and Mandy do Shelf Staple with older titles as well.
Sure. And so we do that sort of thing, and yet people are like, okay, cool. Anyway, what about that new stuff?
Yeah, that's nice.
And don't get me wrong, there's always people, and I'm sure that in response to this, I'll get several emails from people, and they'll say, listen, really, we would love it if you did more videos. We would love it if you would do more videos on older games. Don't listen to this crowd, but the fact of the matter is, the crowd wants new videos of new games. I will talk about old games. Eric and I definitely do so. It's one of the reasons, joking all aside, that we do these letter alphabet lists. Because it makes us look at games that we might not look at otherwise. It makes you listen to them too.
Oh, just wait. We're going to get to this list in a bit.
So, yeah.
Last question from Nick. I think I remember you saying that there were 2 different libraries for Dice Tower West and East. Is there, or did I imagine that? And the updates to your library that you are showing are going to be at both Dice Tower West and East. I am going to Dice Tower West and have been very excited about some of your additions and am hoping to play them there. Yes,
it's the same library. So we're working on that now. Right now the library has 20 shelves of games, but I just cleared off. I'm down to 18 shelves. Now that's good because, well, yeah, whatever. The Essen games are showing up in mass.
Sure.
So I went through, and there's very few games in the library that we have 2 copies of. It's I would say there's 20 games or less that we have 2 copies of, maybe. So that's kind of a thing. You know, I look at some games and like, yeah, we don't need 2 copies of that. Yeah, again, for the very reason the last question was answered. People want to play the new hot stuff. At conventions, definitely the case. I'll be like, hey, look, Puerto Rico. What's that? Are you kidding me? Dominion. We couldn't stop people from playing it 10 years ago or 9 years ago, whenever it came out. And so anyhow, it's actually 11 years. But anyway, I'm working on that. I made a really nice shelf, I think. A nice looking shelf. I call it my gateway shelf. So like the top shelf is all Catan. I got centuries, all the centuries next to each other. Some Carcassones on it. Every Ticket to Ride ever made. It's really cool, I think, anyway. So I'm working hard on it. I have 9 shelves completely done. So I still have 11 to work on. But we're going to get them done by the cruise. And then they're going on the cruise. And then they're going straight from the cruise to Dice Tower West. And then I'll come back to Dice Tower East.
I'm curious to see what the layout of the library is going to be in the conference room on the cruise. Have you figured out how you're fitting all 20 shelves in that room?
Yeah, that room is going to be basically a library. We have so much other space on the ship to play games in.
Okay, so the emphasis is going to be playing games outside the conference room for this
there will still be
cruise.
tables in the conference room. I'm just saying I could put games all around that whole outside wall. There's plenty of space.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Time for Jumping for Joy.
Yay! Jubilee.
Jehoshaphat.
Oh, you're right. I should have said it's Jehoshaphat. All right, folks. Question time for those of you who are watching online. Of course, no one asked any questions last time. But here's your chance. Quick answer question. Thanksgiving is coming soon. I'm hungry for fried turkey. Turkey is delicious. I love turkey. Eric's shirt looks kind of like a criminal escaped from prison. Doesn't it look like that a little bit? Like the Hamburger?
A little bit. Hamburglar. Uh-huh.
Ben McGuire says it's the largest all good games library there is. Well, it's not all good games because I put Diplomacy in it and Merchants of Venus. But
ha! Hilarious.
And yes, I did watch Mandalorian. I enjoyed the first episode, although I did feel like it was an extended setup for the series, and now I would like to see the actual plot. And yes, for crying out loud, we definitely saw the sound. I think I should have a shirt that says, Yes, I know we're on South Park. Alrighty. Am I going to mess with Melody's boyfriend just for fun? Let me make a quick pause here. I'm going to try not to. Because that's one of those things that kind of bugs me a little bit. Once he's firmly in the family, all bets are off. For sure, right? But up until that point, I don't want to be the one to cause problems. All joking aside, I want to have a good relationship with him. If he becomes my future son-in-law, I want to, start off on the right foot. I mean, after a while, then yes.
Sure.
Whew, man, feels like it's been a longer episode. Let's get cranking here. Here we go.
Cranking.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Top 10 games that start with the letter J.
Yes.
You knew this day was coming, Eric. When we started this thing, we would get to a harder letter. Although I think, no, next week shouldn't be so bad. X is still looming in the horizon. X
is get a lot of Xeno shift and stuff. Yes.
But J is actually, here's the deal. When I first did this 15 years ago, or maybe even 20 years ago now. No, it wasn't that long ago.
Wow.
It's been a while since I've done one of these. And since I started doing these. And the first time, I distinctly remember putting Jenga on my list. I was like, well, okay, well, that's a J game. Now, and I even had games on the list that I didn't really like that much. Now I like them all.
Yeah, I'm certainly, it's a little thinner. The list is a little thinner here. I do enjoy all of these games that I'm about to talk about. But yeah, it was a little tougher to find really, really strong games that start with J.
There's some really strong games that are not on Eric's list that I'm assuming it's just because he has not played them. But we do have 4 crossover games out of the 20, so that's more than normal.
Yeah, I'm looking at your list. Well, I guess, yeah, when you're dealing with a thinner pool to begin with, there are several on your list that I have not played. So I think you're probably right there.
Yeah, I think there's. Well, I'll talk about them when we get to them. Let's go.
I've actually played this game fairly recently. Jeju Island.
I wouldn't remember.
Is my number 10. And as we discussed in the live Essen show, this was a very entertaining game playing with a half-asleep Tom Vassal. Jeju Island uses a Mancala-style mechanism to pick up discs and move them around this island, and then whatever disc is on top is going to grab a tile. And you're trying to get sets and basically complete orders. It's a pretty simple game, has cute art, and plays relatively quickly, unless your opponent keeps falling asleep. Jeju Island, number 10.
I think it's probably too light for me, but it's a nice, if you want a really, really light game. My number 10 is Yarol. Yarol is the sequel to The Duke. Mm-hmm. It might even be called The Yarol. I don't remember.
I think it's The Yarol, yeah.
This is a strategy game in which you have pieces. It's based on Vikings, and the pieces move like chess. It shows you on the piece itself how it moves, and after you move it, you flip it over, showing another side. A really fun game. The Yarol plays very differently than the Duke because the Duke has a lot of pieces that slide across the board, like rooks and bishops in chess. The Yarol has fewer of those pieces and has more pieces that offer defense, that you can't attack them from different directions. So it's a little tighter. It's almost like a knife fight style game. I like the Duke better, but the Yarol is a good change of pace, and you can even mix the two of them. It's an interesting thing to play a Duke army against a Yarol one. My number 10, the Yarol.
Cool. Number 9 is a small card game from Looney Labs called Just Desserts. You are working in a dessert shop, and you have a handful of various desserts that are made up of various ingredients. Some are single ingredient desserts, some have multiple ingredients, and there are characters, customers in the center of the table that like certain ingredients and don't like others, and have a favorite dessert. If you manage to match up exactly with their favorite dessert, you're going to get a bonus, a tip. Otherwise, you can combine desserts and make them happy, as long as you don't make them unhappy. And you're trying to score, I think, 3 of a kind or 5 different suits, characters, in order to win the game. Pretty simple, very quick. It's a Looney Labs card game. Just Desserts. Number 9.
Makes me hungry every time we play this game.
The art's fun, too.
My number 9 game is higher on Eric's list, but he might not have enough money by the time it gets to him.
Ooh. My number 8 is a game called Just for Fun, for the numeral 4.
If anyone who uses the number 4 for the word for should have to take a remedial grammar course. I'm sorry. It just bothers me.
This sort of makes sense because the game is about numbers. This is a Cosmos title. The board is made up of 36 squares, and they're not really in order. They're sort of jumbled all over the place. And you have cards that have numbers on them. And you will play from 1 to 4 cards in whatever combination, adding up those numbers to put one of your pieces on one of the spaces on the board. If you have 2 more pieces than anyone else, you have that zone is safe for you, and you're trying to make 4 in a row. What keeps this interesting is the fact that you're using these cards in whatever combination you want. You've got lots of possibilities, and you're watching what your opponents are doing and keeping your options open for yourself, also blocking them. It's a pretty interesting abstract game. Just for fun, number 8.
My number 8 is higher on Eric's list. I will bump around and get there eventually.
My number 7 is showing up on Tom's list, but we're both in this game together.
No, we're not. My number 7 is higher on Eric's list, but it's about to fall.
Number 6 is mine and mine alone. That's Jungle Speed. This is a speed game. You've got the plastic totem in the center, and you are looking for certain patterns to show up in front of each player. Each player reveals 1 card at a time, and when there's a certain match, you're trying to be the first to grab that totem, and injuries ensue. But it is a perennial favorite at family gatherings, Jungle Speed, number 6.
Yeah, well, I didn't consider this one. I mean, I'll play Jungle Speed. I've had some entertaining games with Jungle Speed. I have some scars. No, that's not true. But I definitely have had bloody wrists from Jungle Speed thanks to someone not trimming their nails. My number 6 is Eric's number 7. So close and yet so far, and that's Jaipur. Jaipur is a trading game of sorts for 2 players with camels. In fact, I believe they just came out with a very nice, shiny new version of this.
With shiny camels?
No, but this game does have kind of an interesting mechanism with camels where eventually someone takes the camels. It's a really good back and forth 2-player games. If someone's ever saying, hey, me and my good friend or special someone, we want to play a 2-player game, what should we get? Jaipur is often told to them by many people because it's simple, it's fun, it's a nice back and forth as you try to get accomplish these goals. And maybe it's not necessarily a trading game, but the theme of it's trading, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, a lot of tension, if I recall correctly.
That's Jaipur, Jaipur. And by the way, Eric's first game, he said Jeju Island is Jeju. That's an island in Korea.
Number 5 for me is called Jumpgate. This is a game that was originally published by the Game Crafter. In fact, I went back to look at Tom's review of this game, and Tom, your original version comes in like a basic cardboard box. Mine was a little nicer. I think I got the 2nd edition of this game. Jumpgate is a space-themed game where you are traveling to different planets and trying to get different commodities or gems, and it's sort of not really a drafting, but there's a stack of cards on each of these planets, and you're trying to get there first to be able to get the commodities that you want, to get the majorities you're looking for. The components, not so great, but the gameplay was pretty interesting, and that's why it's my number 5, Jumpgate.
Yeah, it's been a really long time since I've played it. I remember enjoying it when it came out, Matt Worden Games, and you're right, it's from the Game Crafter. Normally, I would not even give those games really a second glance, but this was back in 2010, so I guess I did back then. My number 5 is Jupiter Rescue. Now, I often walk by the Twilight Creations booth and kind of look and say, oh, look, Zombies 65 is out, or whatever number they're on. They keep making zombie games and games that are similar to zombies, and that's fine, that people like them, right? But they made a little game called Jupiter Rescue where you control these robots on this space station, and you're trying to rescue different people. And they're aliens are after him or whatever it is. I forget what's after him exactly, but you're trying to rescue the people by programming these robots. It's a pretty fun little cooperative game that I think a lot of people have not heard of or played.
I have not played it. I have walked by it numerous times and almost pulled the trigger numerous times walking by the Twilight Creations booth. But it never came home with me. But it's always been one I've wanted to try.
This might be one that you find on discount somewhere, and you might consider it. That's Jupiter Rescue.
My number 4 was Tom's number 9, and that is Jorvik.
This game.
Yeah, it's a re-implementation of a game that I guess it came out, quote unquote, in English, but the title was German. Die Spiekerstadt was the name. It's sort of a bidding game, and your bids are the meeples that you put out in various locations, and the order in which they are positioned is important, and it's got a neat system, which I find fascinating. And I haven't played it a lot lately, but it's just a really solid, unique method of bidding, which is why it's so high on my list.
Yeah, it's really intriguing, this game, this Jorvik game. Just to clarify, it is literally twice the game of the Spiekerstadt. And if you want to play, you can play with just the Spiekerstadt rules with Jorvik, and you fold the board in half.
Yes, that was a neat way to do it.
But anyway, yeah, the game is pretty simple. You put your guy underneath. There's all these cards. I want a card. You put a guy underneath it. Yeah, I'll get that card for a coin. Eric sticks a guy underneath mine. So let's say there's 4 guys there. I put my guy first. There's 4 guys. I got to pay 4 coins. Mm-hmm. I can't afford that. So I take mine away. So Eric put his guy behind me. Now it's 3 coins. It's cheaper.
No, it's 3.
But yeah. Eric didn't expect that was going to happen, so he spent his money somewhere else. And then so he pulls it off, and Bob's there, but Bob doesn't really want to pay 2 for it, so he doesn't do it. And then the 4th one's mine. Now I get it for 1.
Yes.
And I like that concept, and you would be surprised. So you'll stick your worker behind someone else just to make them pay extra sometimes.
Yep.
And sometimes you do it so that if they can't pay, then you got it. It's really neat. It's also a little bloodthirsty, really, I feel.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's rare that if you're the first one to place there that you're going to be willing to pay the price by the time the bidding is done.
All right, now we're going to jump into a series of 3 games that I think I'm surprised aren't on Eric's list. The first is Jump Drive, which there's also a variation that just came out called The City. It's the exact same game almost, with some minor differences between them. Jump Drive is like a Race for the Galaxy light from Tom Lemon. In this game, you draw some cards, you play a card. The card that you play with has a cost on it of other cards in your hand, and then all the cards in front of you will provide you with points and or income. Income is just drawing cards from the deck. As soon as someone gets 50 points, the game's over. And games are like 7 turns. It's really fast. It's really fun. I really like it. Jump Drive. If you've not played it, it looks like Race for the Galaxy, but it plays fairly differently, and it's super light, but yet offers some pretty good choices.
Interesting. I mean, I've stayed away from this one because it's never been really explained to me how different it is from Race for the Galaxy. I knew it was sort of a simpler version, but I never...
It's not really a version. So this game came out ages ago called The City, and he built upon it to make Race for the Galaxy later on, but it's like the fastest engine builder you'll ever play. Like, I'll play a card on my first turn, and that card gives me 1 point. And I'm like, you need 50 to win? Oh, okay. And then my next card, now I'm getting 2 cards and 1 point. And then I play a card that gives me 3 points. So my third turn, I get 4 points. And then on my 5th turn, I get 4 points. And then I play a card that gives me 9. And now I got 13 points on my 6th turn.
Okay.
And then I play another card at 8 points. I get 21 points and it just, and you get points. Yeah. And I don't know what it is. I like that. Jump Drive is actually a very, very descriptive name of the game.
Okay. My number 3 showed up on Tom's list in the number 7 position. It's Junk Art. This is a dexterity/stacking game where you're given various challenges and some very odd-shaped pieces, and you're trying to stack them up in cool ways to be like the tallest or the widest or whatever the challenge is. There are several editions of this game, if I recall correctly, one of which comes in a wooden box, which is pretty cool. Junk Art, number 3.
Yeah, I like Junk Art too. It takes the stacking games. There's so many of these out there, and it adds some stuff to it that I feel like it is not in many other games. Also, this is one you can let your kids play with as answering a former question earlier on.
Yes, indeed.
My number 3 is another game I'm surprised isn't on Eric's list, and that's Jambo. It's in the Cosmos 2-player line. This is an actual trading game for 2 players. They came out with a sequel to it, Asante. They're kind of the same game. You can even mix them together. But Jambo, such a good game. A deck of cards, and you're deciding which ones to take. Animal cards that will attack your opponent. Cards that will let you trade. You're trying to trade for resources to accomplish and get victory points. It's a good game. If you never played this one, check it out. I like it. You should play it, Eric.
I should. So I think with Jambo, my wife and I bought a lot of the Cosmos 2-player line, and I think we were sort of at capacity when we came across Jambo and said, it didn't grab us, and so never actually picked it up or tried it. Number 2 was Tom's number 8, and that is Junk Orbit. It's a pick up and deliver game in which you have sort of this physics concept. You're orbiting a planet, and you have to jettison cargo to move that distance around in the opposite direction in order to either pick up or deliver something. And you sort of do this weird figure 8 thing around moons and other planets, and it's a neat system. And I love how the whole thing sort of works together. And then that cargo that you jettisoned is now available for somebody else to pick up. It's very cool. Junk Orbit, number 2.
Yeah, I like Junk Orbit. The only thing I don't like is I don't like the container. It's this round.
Oh, it's a cylinder. Yeah.
But it is a neat game. It's this whole idea of pushing against, like jettisoning something out, going the other direction. It's just kind of a cool concept. And it definitely hits Eric's sweet spot, which is why it's higher on his list, is the pickup and delivery. But I like it too. It was a fun little game. My number 2 is a classic game that you may never have played called Jet Set. Jet Set is like Ticket to Ride for gamers. As you build different jet routes around Europe, connections, and you're trying to score points, but you have to spend money, and you're putting these jets down, and you're trying to be the most economical. It comes with there's 2 expansions for it. Each one has like 5 modules, so there's 10 total. You don't need to play with any of these, but they do spruce the game up. But even the base game, when I first played it, I said, wow, it's economic, it's thinky. I don't know, it's just one of those games I had to sit around and really think how cool it is. I like Jet Set. 2 words.
Yeah, this is another one that I've hovered around and looked at. I think I even sat in for a demo or looked over someone's shoulder for a demo. It's from Watzelpogue Games, and looks. This is one of their earlier titles, so it doesn't look that pretty.
It's also nothing like their other ones. They usually make very light family games, and this is the complete opposite of that.
Game. Yeah, I just never sat down to give it a whirl. Our number 1, we synced up on this one, and I think this one far and away is in the lead, at least for me. It's the new party game, Just One, which is wonderful. A party game you're trying to get one player to guess a word or phrase, and everyone gives a clue, but any duplicate clues are eliminated, and the player never gets to see those clues. Then they get to look at everything else and hopefully piece together what they're supposed to be guessing from what is left over. It's a great concept, offers cool choices in how you give your clues, and works for just about anybody. It's very easy to explain when you pull this out. I've played this many times, but I don't own a physical copy, and now that Thanksgiving is coming, I feel like I really should have one in my back pocket.
Yeah, this is kind of a game you should play on Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
You're right. Because for Thanksgiving this year, I'm hosting relatives out the wazoo. And I was like, but I might bring Just One. That's an excellent one to bring. I think a lot of people will enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very, very rare we sync up on the number 1 like that. But when I made this list, I was like, Just One.
Yeah.
And then I sat around and made the rest of the list.
Figured out everything else. Yeah,
no, it was an easy one. And actually, again, I think it's interesting how many good games there are out there that we can make these lists. When you get to a quote-unquote hard letter like J, it's like, whatever. I got it. I still think X will be hard. But we're so many weeks away from that. That's like 2021 probably at this point.
Yeah, but who knows?
All righty. Well, that's it. Let's see what the People's Choice says. All right, here we go. Hang on 1 second, though. Dun, da, 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 da. The People's Choice. So for number 10 for the People's Choice was Jaws. This is a brand new game that just came out. I think I'm trying to remember who designed this one, but I have not played this one. Sam played it and liked it.
Yeah, it's Ravensburger, I think.
Yes. Number 9, Jungle Speed. A lot of people still like that. Number 8, Jumbo. Number 7, Joking Hazard. This is based on a webcomic, and this is an 18-plus game. Just a heads up in case you're going to look to play it.
I think I received this game as a gift, and I have yet to find the right group to bring it out with.
Number 6 is Jump Drive. Number 5 is Jenga. Well, there you go.
There it is.
Like Number 4 is Just One. I actually thought it might be higher. Number 3, Junk Art. Number 2, Jamaica, which was my number 11, in case you're worried. And number 1, Jaipur.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's as far up as it is. I mean, I knew it was well regarded, but I didn't think it would be number 1.
Well, the new version just came out, right? So there's that. But, yeah. Someone who's watching said Cult of the New. I don't know if you're talking about us, but that's definitely not the case. Just One is a great party game. You got to play it, man. Also, my number 2 was Jet Set. And then Jambo. No, Cult of the New. Fi, I say. Alrighty. Well, that's that, folks. Hey, don't forget about the live marathon. If you come watch it, there's a chance to win prizes. It's being sponsored by Awakened Realms, and we're giving away like a copy of Nemesis, a copy of Lords of Hellas, a copy of Tainted Grail, all kinds of stuff. There's lots of games you can win.
Unless I can win prizes?
You are affiliated with the Dice Tower in any kind of official way.
Oh.
But you can still watch, Eric.
I could.
But then Eric will be all sad. He'll be like, I wish I was there.
I know. One of these days I'll come down for another marathon, just not this one.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I'm pretty excited about this one, and if this works as well as I hope it does, this is kind of a test. We haven't done a marathon at our studio before, so if this works well, we'll do more of these in the future.
Is there a whole room for sleeping bags? Are you swapping people in now?
We thought I'm gonna throw one in the closet because I'm pretty sure Jason's gonna sleep there. No, there's a hotel right down the road, so
okay.
I didn't think about throwing sleeping bags there. No, because people would be noisy. It would be hard to sleep. Besides, have you tried to sleep in a sleeping bag lately? I'm too old for that.
That's true. No, I don't. I'll leave that to my kids. I need a bed.
Alrighty. Well, anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
There's a lot of exclamations that start with J. Gee Willikers! Except that's a G.
Oh, my word.
Jumpin' Jehoshaphat.
That's one, Eric.
Jeepers? Jinkies.
Yeah,
I think these are all Scooby-Doo phrases.
Alrighty. And that's it.
That's a show.
Thank you to everybody who is watching. Alrighty. So, looking forward to seeing you guys. Tomorrow we're doing a live playthrough. So come back and join us then. And that's it for the week. But there's all kinds of videos happening this week. So there's more reviews coming up. I think some of the games I even talked about in this episode are being reviewed this week. So, alrighty.
Cool.
Folks who are watching online, thanks so much. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.